Today I'm making yet another 4 coasters. I'll explain why in a minute. See you then. So what's been so complex about making 4 coasters? Well, for a start I didn't. I made 8. And that was because I wanted to learn a whole load of things from these videos. So I wanted to learn first of all how much longer it took you to make something if you were doing a YouTube video. So I made a pair of coasters on my own without the normal video equipment being put on and off and moved around. I put up a GoPro in the corner of the room and let it run for the whole time I was doing it. So that gave me a baseline from which to start. Then I made a pair of coasters videoing it in the normal way I would, which was the Friday output on the channel, and I also GoPro'd that whole process. Then I wanted to do the challenge that Leo had set, but again as a baseline I wanted to know how much longer it would take him in everyday life to do a normal task the same as I would do. So that would give me a direct comparison with me doing it on my own. So I just built those coasters without any videoing other than leaving the GoPro running in the corner, which again I had to edit to get the timeline. But that is a direct comparison with a straightforward build there. But I appreciate the fact that Leo does videos and puts them up on YouTube, and that in itself must increase the time it takes to do things. So I made another pair, one-handed and videoing them, to do the video which came out yesterday, or to the inserts which came out yesterday. So by now we're up to 1 video, 2, 3 videos, 4 videos, 5, 6 videos, and the video that's filming this. So we're into 7 videos for this whole task. Just to get the baseline, 4 of those videos are purely GoPros left running in the corner of the shed and then edited to cut the times to when you're actually doing anything. And that's given me a whole load of information to work from, which tells me how much longer it takes to do things on YouTube and how much longer Leo should take, or would take probably, than me. I know that there gets to be a system, if you're not able-bodied, that you get around your workarounds and therefore you become faster. So it's probably slightly twisted, but by and large it gives some idea. And the very fact that he's putting YouTube videos up as well must mean, from what I've learnt from that one, that it's also taking him a huge amount longer as well just to do that. So let's have a look at the stats on that and see where we are with what that's taken in terms of time. Right, so let's have a look and see. First of all, I went in the shed and I recorded the time it took me to make 2 coasters, and that was 36 minutes. Now that is pure time spent making, and therefore doesn't include the time it took me to clean up afterwards, to think about what I was going to do before I did it, to get tools out from under the bench or anything like that. I've got that time and I've actually prorated that comparative to the time it took to make, because it is fair to say that if you're doing videoing, you've got more stuff to get out and put away and more stuff to think about. So I think it's fair and accurate to do it. It's 1 hour 5 minutes. Now that in itself is quite telling, but it's probably about right. It takes you twice as long if you're thinking about what you're going to do and getting stuff out than actually physically just sawing or chopping or routering or whatever else. So that gave me a total for making these coasters 1 hour. These have been rounded, so you'll get some odd maths in that 1 hour 5 minutes and 36 minutes doesn't equal 1 hour 40 minutes, but it does in my world. That's because those are slightly less than 36 minutes and 1 hour 5. That gave me a baseline. Then to video it, it took me 1 hour 3 minutes, and that in itself is the telling one. And that is something you appreciate probably now when you see the guys who are semi-professional, who are doing this for a living, how much longer it must be slowing them down on making stuff. It's roughly twice the time it takes. So on that basis, I've said the clean up and the think about is 2 hours 20, 2 hours 10, which is right roughly, because as I say, there's all the camera equipment to get out, batteries to charge, all sorts of other things involved in this that probably is about right. And then there's the editing, and I've now got the experience, if you like, of not only 200 videos but these 7. I've actually recorded how long I've been doing all the editing, and that's 2 hours 30 as a rough 2.5 hours. So that brings me in at 5 hours 40. So it's what I had always thought. It's taking about 3 times longer to video something as it does to make it on your own. So whenever you're watching, it's alright with us amateurs, we've got nothing else to do with our time. It's alright with the professionals because they're being paid to do it out of YouTube income. But the guys in the middle, who I would suggest are probably the guys from, I don't know, 20,000 subscribers up to, I don't know, 500,000 maybe, I'm not sure, I don't know all the economics of it, but certainly down that bottom end of the 20 to 50, 100,000 subs guys, if they're trying to make a living as well, every time they make a video of them making something, bear in mind it's taken them 3 times longer to do that, and they've got to get that money back somehow, or they've got to work a lot harder at night doing editing and things like that. And so that's something I've appreciated. Now we get on to the one-handed, which was quite interesting. That was 1 hour 3 minutes. So again, it's taken me about twice as long to do anything. So again, clean up on that one. I've doubled it again because, again, working with one hand, it's a bloody sight harder to do it. So that gives you 3 hours 10. So I think it's fair to say it's taken roughly twice as long to make the coasters. I don't believe that they were any different. I can't pick out the ones that were different that I did. But the very fact that Leo now does this one-handed, when I did the video one-handed, it took me 1 hour 42 minutes to actually make, because you're setting things up. And I've said it's because you're one-handed videoing, and again I've tried it and I'll explain some of the problems with the cameras in a minute. It's probably about, I've gone for 4 hours 15 on that, because of the time it takes just moving around in the shed with a camera tripod in one hand. You've got nothing to balance or anything. That may be slightly over, I don't know. I can't really speak because I didn't specifically time everything. The editing, I've said 3 hours, 2 hours 30 again, because I'm not sure, but I'm assuming I'm only using one hand to edit most of the time. I'm assuming your non-dominant hand might slow you down a bit, but you'd probably get used to it. But that came out at about 8 hours 30, I think. So what it amounts to is videoing takes you 3 times longer. Probably working with one hand makes you take twice as long to do anything, but making it one-handed and putting YouTube videos up, you're anything between 4 and 5 times longer, which is something to think about next time you're watching any of Leo's videos. If I can just mention then a couple of things that I found helpful, a couple of things I found frustrating. Leo mentioned on one of his videos the other day that he was using these sort of Festool clamps, or Bessie ones these are, that just lock up like that, and I noticed he was using them on his chop saw. They were ideal in that situation because the bottom was located rigid in the chop saw, and therefore with one hand you could tighten them up. On an MFT bench I found them almost useless because you haven't got that location at the bottom. So if you want to clamp something like that, you've got to actually try, and you can't quite reach to get that up there, and then that drops down, so that doesn't work. So I've not found those as good on the bench itself as they are when they've got a fixed base that will stop them moving up and down. These on the other hand I would imagine would be ideal if they just had a small right angle bolt put on the bottom of them, because they just clamp up like that and ratchet up nicely, and I use these a lot on the glue up. They were good. The other thing I've used a lot is the little push clamp that Festool do on dogs. If you just push it together like that, and then with one hand you can just tighten it up that way, that makes it really rigid. Similarly, if you're doing something, when I was trimming the ends of these and sanding them, I did the same thing. Just push that in there and then tighten it up, and that is again solid. So I thought those were good. My little router sled was also of huge use. I would imagine either on a saw bench or with a router, having that sled that you can actually then hold your workpiece on with a variety. I've just super glued and taped on all sorts of things to hold it, and that worked well. And that was the other thing that was of huge use. Super glue or mitre bond, an accelerator and a bit of masking tape solved so many problems by just holding the piece down rigid, and that was a great godsend. That on the other hand was perhaps the most frustrating thing I had, because to get that lid off that bottle, if there's been a bit of glue on it, is almost impossible. In the end I think I ended up putting it between something that was that wide and pulling, but it really was the most frustrating thing I think I had, apart from the camera. So I think a glue bot might be the answer. I'm not sure, I haven't used them before, but I think that might be the answer for that one. But certainly wood glue bottles are a complete pain. And then let's just have a look at the camera, which is the one thing that was the biggest eye-opener to me altogether. because it's nothing to do with disability. It's like scissors. It just doesn't work left-handed. Just as an observation, I can use this camera reasonably well, I think, single-handedly if I'm right-handed. All the controls are there, focus, the light brilliance, the on-off switch for the camera, pretty much everything I want. And to adjust the other side of it is not a problem. I can put it down and adjust that. But certainly as far as it goes, operating a camera one-handed, not a problem, until you come to use your left hand. And at that point it all goes a bit pear-shaped, because you end up with a huge amount of selfies. It's pretty much, well, it's not impossible, but it's certainly pretty awkward to be doing that. In fact, I can't reach, and what's happening is that my arm all over things is making the focus work. So that's one interesting thing that's come out of this. So yeah, these things are designed for right-handed people, and it's something I've never even thought about, how the world is geared so badly against anybody who's left-handed, never mind disabled, just left-handed. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you, Leo, for that challenge. It's been quite sobering to realise the sort of everyday struggles and sort of strife that you get just by having a disability like that, and I hope it shows everybody that doesn't matter what the disability might be, whether it's visible or not, that people are going through all sorts of struggles that we haven't really got any appreciation of. So for that little walk in your shoes, Leo, thank you. I hope you'll all subscribe to Leo's channel. Now you realise how much effort he's putting into every video that's put out. I'll put a link below to his channel in the description. Look forward to seeing you next week, and we'll hopefully be doing something different, and I'll see you then. Bye.